Hi, this is the Morgansoft folks this is actually from Coldstream Cottage, excuse me. So we're going to be talking about various things today. We just thought we'd talk to you guys and, show off our dogs and talk to you
So I'm
about
I'm
the things we're
Beth.
going to do. I'm Dean,
This is Biggs. He is a little over 2 years old.
and this is Emma, and
And
she's
she's a
also a
little.
little over 2 years old. Yep. And they're both Chihuahuas, although she is a Chai Pin. And some of you
He's a
may,
toy.
he's a toy. He's a full-blooded Chihuahua. Some of you may recognize her from her coloring, but she's a Chai Pin, and they're both the sweetest dogs you ever want to know. Very very quiet for the most part until they start
Until they're
barking.
not.
But very very pleasant to be around. People come to the house all the time and say they're so nice to be around. They don't bite. They don't, contrary to most Chihuahuas, they don't bite. They don't give a hard time. So we wanted to talk a little bit about some things that we're thinking about doing. And I am still working. I'm a software engineer, and Beth is retired.
Finally.
Tell them about your retirement when you went into retirement.
I went into retirement actually in 2014. I retired a little bit early from the state of South Carolina, but we moved to Arkansas and I went back to work after our grandbaby was born. Actually, I retired in November of 2012. And then when our grandbaby was born, we came back to Columbia. And I worked a little bit again and just, I think, have something to do and bring a little extra money in. And so then I left again about a year ago, a little over a year ago, because I was just in retirement. You're so busy, you don't have time to work and gets in my way of things that I want to do.
Well, not to mention financially,
yeah.
her making money actually caused us to pay
Pay
more
more
taxes,
taxes.
and so it was better for her to go ahead and fully retire.
Mhm.
I'm looking to try and get retired soon,
Yes.
and so we're talking about different things we could be doing in retirement. And while I'm 63 and I won't retire for a little while yet.
I'm
Couple of years.
71. I retired
Well,
at,
70.
well, almost. I'm in my 70th year.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I just want to be. I don't want you to add any time to your
I
age.
know.
Do that, yeah, right. She didn't look 70 though, does she? I mean, I don't think so. But I love her and I think she looks beautiful anyway. But yes, she's 70. I'm 63, and I'm looking to get retired soon, within the next couple of years. And so we're kind of developing a plan of what we want to do. And part of what our retirement plan is, because we haven't really got a lot in our 401k, but I'm working on that and trying to get that built up. But in the meantime, we want to pay off all of our bills. We bought this house that we have now. She says it's her fault. It was our decision. We bought this house, but it is a 2-story house. And so we understand that maybe in the future, we're going to need a 1-story place. So what we're looking to do is to, once again, we downsized one time when we sold one house and moved into an apartment. And then for various reasons, moved out of that apartment, bought another house, and upsized again, right? So we've got a lot of stuff. We've got a lot of stuff we need to get rid of, and we're going to get rid of.
Declutter in preparation of what our plans are. We have, as you get older, you may know that the older you get, seems like the more stuff you have accumulated, and then we just move it from one place to another. And we've decided that, and I have in particular, because I have a lot of things that are sentimental, that I really don't need things to remember those that I love. I like things to look at, but I also like to travel. So I've decided that it's better to let go of things than to let that keep me from doing what I want to do. And that's our desire, is to travel, to downsize to where we don't have so much things to do around a home, and just go and grab these guys and go whenever we want to.
Yeah, I do a lot of DIY work, and so as a result, a lot of my weekends have been devoted to putting together things like redoing the kitchen and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So we spent a lot of the time of the 2 years we've been here, we spent a lot of that time working on the house. And we've come to the conclusion that that's not what we want to do in retirement. I don't want to, as much as I enjoy woodworking, I don't enjoy it enough to not travel or to not have what I want to have in retirement. We also would like to decrease our outlay on the things that we're paying for. And we had to getting a new roof, and we had to buy a new AC unit, and we've done a lot of upgrades to the house. Yeah, windows. We had our pool liner replaced. So there's a lot of things we've done on the house, and we put a lot of money into the house. So I think we'll be able to get most, if not all of that back when we sell it.
Daddy.
And the thing is, I feel like experiences are really important. In fact, my daughter asked my wife what she could get us for Christmas, and Beth said, "Well, what do you want for Christmas?" And I said, "Well, I don't want anything. I don't want her to give us anything. I want her to do something for us. Maybe, I don't know, make us dinner." And so they're going to come over and they're going to cook out. And I would much rather spend time with them than be given something that I look at for a couple of minutes and then it sits in a corner somewhere.
And that way we get to spend quality time with them and with our granddaughter. And we want our son to do the same thing, he and his wife, to come over and let's have company and enjoy each other's company. We don't need anything at this stage of our life. If we need it, we get it. And I don't want our children to be burdened with buying us anything, but just coming over and being with us is what we like.
Yeah. And I think, that minimalist, mentality is what's, driving us to go, probably next spring, we'll put the house on the market. And the plan is to put the house on the market in the spring, obviously, because it is a 5-bedroom house, about 2,500 square feet, 2,600 square feet, that will, with a pool. So I think it'll go very well from a family perspective. At least the last house that we had that was very similar to this one sold in one day. It was a very good. So of course it was a different real estate market at that point.
But we're in a great location. We're in a award-winning school district here, and we are near Lake Murray, which we probably are less than 2 miles now from Lake Murray, which is a wonderful family spot for boating and swimming and all kind of fishing, all kind of things. And we also are very near both the interstates and lots of areas close to us. We have a mall, our doctors are close here. It's a wonderful area here outside of Columbia, South Carolina. And it's one of the reasons we chose it. We love living in this area. We've lived here for a long time. And so that in itself will probably be one of the draws for this house.
It's also, so when we sell the house, we're kind of looking at apartments as being an option to move into, right? So we're going to pay off all the bills, probably pay off our car and our student loan. Believe it or not, we're still paying a student loan. Pay off all of that, get out of all that debt, and then stay out of debt, because we'll be in basically in an apartment, and won't feel the psychological need to fix anything. That's what we feel like. Having a house for us, our way of thinking is, we come into a house and we immediately look at ways to fix it, to make it better, right? And every house we've ever sold, the people who come in say, wow, this is wonderful. And the reason it is because we end up spending all of our time and our money fixing it up. And we're ready to go into retirement without fixing up houses, without being, and it's not that we flipped houses. Don't get me wrong.
Some people
may think
that
we flipped houses, but we did not. We bought houses because we loved them, because we liked them, and we wanted to make them better. But in making them better, oftentimes we spend a lot of money to do so. As I said, if we spent $10,000 on an AC unit for here, and then $10,000 on windows, and it goes on.
On the roof.
It goes on and on and on. $9,000 on the roof, and then we spent $9,000 on the porch, and so we've spent a lot of money on making this house a better, more livable place to be. But we're tired of spending money on that and time on renovating houses, as it were.
We'd rather spend our money going to wonderful places that we'd like to see. We have friends that they go to Ireland and Alaska, and they do all these wonderful things. And I'm going, why don't we do that? Instead of, I love this house. I love what we've done to the kitchen. Dean worked so hard, and it's so beautiful. And I do love it. But I'm at the point where I don't love cleaning the stairs every week and cleaning 3 bathrooms and mopping and cleaning all the up and down stairs. And so I'm ready to just simplify our life and to have a little bit more calm and peace in it.
Mm-hmm. And this house affords us a lot of room. And one of the things that I've done is take over the Frog, which is one of the bedrooms, as a studio. And I love having my studio, but by the same token, I don't think it's worth staying in the house just to have that studio. I can always, if we get an apartment and I find that I need a studio, I can always rent a studio once we start monetizing on YouTube. And so that's what we're really looking forward to. But we're doing our budget. And this is something that our friends, they're worried about us that our budget may not be appropriate for it. But we're doing our budget and trying to figure out ways that we can lower our outlay so that we can then live off of our Social Security and not have to touch our the 401k and let it grow for a while.
And some of our investments, we want those to grow for a while. And I'm going to segue in that if you are enjoying our video today and haven't subscribed, click that button, give us a like, share the video, and help us to get to our 1,000 viewers, our 1,000 subscribers, so that we'll be able to get our channel monetized. We would really appreciate it, and you don't know how much we do appreciate you joining in on this today.
Absolutely, absolutely. We also have another channel called Morgansoft. This is the Coldstream Cottage, is where this is going to be posted. We also have a channel called Morgansoft that you can go to, and one called Savings and Suitcases, which is about travel. And we're just trying to get those off the drawing board, as it were. We don't have very many subscribers, but we're working on them. And we hope that you enjoy what you see. Now, one of the things that we really look forward to in moving and not having debt is the ability to put away a lot of money and to increase our ability to have a better budget, right? But we're doing our budget based on just what we get in from her retirement and her Social Security, and then what I'll get in from Social Security. So we're basing it just on that basis, rather than basing it on what we can take from the 401k or what we might get from YouTube, right? Because we don't want to base our budget on an unknown quantity, which is how much extra cash we might get out of YouTube. And I think that's always a good idea, is to try and base your budget on what the actual numbers are, rather than um, trying to kind of shoehorn it in other numbers based on what you hope will happen.
Right. We want it based on actual income for us, and that way we don't we aren't stressed so much. We won't over budget ourselves. We won't do what ifs, and we'll make it work because I just know that it's doable.
And that's a good point. And we actually making it work. I think that's the biggest thing that our friends don't quite understand, is that we will make it work at whatever budget we need to make it work at. Because once I get retired, I don't have any choice in the matter, right? I have to make it work. So one of the things that we've been talking about and kind of researching is whether or not we would, yeah, at some point, and probably not within the next year or year and a half, but at some point we were looking at the possibility of doing an expat type of thing. And we looked at what is it, Bali.
Bali,
We looked at Bali. We looked at Panama,
Portugal,
Mexico,
possibly Thailand,
possibly Japan.
Malaysia.
So we're looking at different places within the world that have lower cost of living than the U.S. And we actually have a set of friends that run a YouTube channel called Grounded Life, and you should watch some of their videos as well.
Yes.
And they do slow travel, but I don't think that we want to do slow travel. I think that our concept is more of to base ourselves out of one country, and then travel from that country. You know, a country where we can live at a lower cost of living, which would then give us the additional cash to be able to travel as we need to without necessarily touching
And at the same time,
investments.
some of the things that we were looking at in other countries or in other areas is the cost of living, because we need for it to be lower, uh, and that way we can thrive a little bit in another country, and also still be close and have good health insurance, and still be able to use internet and have phone service and streaming. And these are some of the things that we look at, as well as safety and how close we are to airports, or being able to leave when we want to leave and come back home, and the cost of that. That's some of the things that we thought would be great if we could still stay on what our budget is here. Both of us retired, we would be saving money in another area, because the cost of living here has gotten so high.
It has. And one of the things that we were just talking about last night was the taxation situation, right? So we want to make sure that when we if we decide to go somewhere, we understand what the taxation situation is, right? Because we're gonna, submit our taxes to the IRS here in the United States, no matter where we're at, because you have to submit your income. But we want to make sure that we're not double taxed. And as an example of this, one of our friends said, "Well, you should go ahead and get. I could get a German dual citizenship with Germany, because my mother was full German. So I could get a dual citizenship with Germany. The problem with that is, if we lived in Germany, we would be double taxed because of the way that they do the taxes. They do taxes in Germany based on your residency instead of by the country of your origin.
That's what we understand
And
from doing a little bit of research.
Yeah, so we want to do more research to make sure that that's the case, but we definitely want to make sure that we understand the taxation repercussions of whatever we do.
Right. And we also are looking into visas in other areas, and what you have to do, how long you can stay, things like that, and also safety, the safety in those areas. And that is very important. We would never want to move somewhere that we didn't feel safe.
That's true. That's true. And we've looked at there's another channel that we watch, Holy Schmidt, which he goes over quite a bit of this, and they talk about the Global Peace Initiative and where different countries stand in that index of different countries. I think it's Global Peace Index is the name of it, and like for instance, where do they stand in the peace index, but as far as crime and insurrection and that sort of thing, but also where do they stand from an infrastructure perspective, right? So as an example, Japan is just absolutely fabulous as far as infrastructure. Their infrastructure is rated 2 as in the world, number 2 in the world. United States is, however, rated 3. So their infrastructure is actually better than ours. Now, and I want to say that the peace index is pretty high up in the index as well. So that's why we looked at Japan. You'd think that Japan was more expensive, but that's in in downtown Tokyo,
in this big city,
and that's the case with any of the places we looked at. The big cities are much more expensive, but as you move away from the big cities and into the countryside, the costs go way down. So we're looking at that as an option. We're not sure if that's what we want to do. If you have comments about this, please leave them below, because we'd really like to know what you have to say on this.
Especially if you've been to any of these areas, we'd be really interested in information about that, because we are like babies in this.
Yeah.
We have just started our journey and our research. So I know that our perspectives have already changed just in the research and what our wants are as well as our needs.
Right.
But it's wonderful to be able to hear other people and what they think and where they've been and how do you feel about this.
Interestingly, we watched a video about people going to Portugal, and we thought
several.
And there were several, and one of them was about this couple that was going from New York to Portugal, and they were saying that it was more expensive than they expected. And we started watching it, and we figured out that the reason it may have been more expensive for them was because they were buying a house in Portugal that they were splitting up into 2 apartments and then renting out, and so there was a lot, and they were coming in as entrepreneurs into Portugal. So they were getting a different visa.
That's another level.
Yeah, that's another visa.
Level.
That's a whole other level of visa. And so it cost them like $15,000 just to apply for a visa, which I'm just going to tell you,
that's got a great for me.
Not going to spend $15,000 to apply for a visa.
For them, it was something that they have already thought about. I mean, I think they rented a car because where they are, there's not a lot. It's not convenient for them to jump in a cab or an Uber every time. And they bought lots of things to furnish these apartments that they were renting out. And so, yes, it was an entrepreneurial adventure and them moving in there. Whereas there are other people who moved who are a little lower level, and their visa was not that expensive, and it is renewable. And so they're there enjoying that. There is something, it's a non-resident
or non-habitual
residence.
Yeah.
And they do a scaled percentage of your income
for taxes. Right. Yeah. So that changed is changing in 2025. Previous to 2025, it was a 10% flat tax for residents, for non-habitual residents is what they call you.
NHR,
that is
I think
NHR. That they, if you got a visa to stay for 5 years or something along those lines, you could get this flat tax of 10%. And then in 2025, that's now a graduated tax
Mm-hmm.
up to 48%. So
40 something. I don't
yeah, something,
remember.
something. It was pretty
Mm-hmm.
high.
Mm-hmm.
And so we want to
We're
make
still,
sure that we're not gonna be putting ourselves in a worse tax position
mm-hmm.
than we are today.
And we're still looking into that because that's for people earning money
Mm-hmm.
that are from the United States, earning money in Portugal in the areas. And we're still looking at, does that mean that our pension and our social security, because that's not so much earned in my opinion, but I don't know. And so that's something that we need to research.
Well, and that was one of the things that the people who were talking, we were watching this other video about about Portugal and about how the various taxing strategies work, and they were talking about, that's when they talked about Japan, about Germany and the double taxation there.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that the very astute young lady was discussing was the fact that, you know, when you're taxed by the United States, they have treaties with other countries, and so you have to look at the treaties that are available. And one of those treaties says, well, if your taxes are imposed by the United States, we won't tax you in the country in which you live if you are an expat. Now, again, that assumes that there's a treaty. And in the case of Vietnam, for instance, there is no treaty, right? So that's something to think about. And we looked at Vietnam as another option and had to cross it off the list, particularly because it does not have a treaty with the United States.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So my take on a lot of this is, if we were to find somewhere that we thought, you know what, we could really live here and keep our, we would never give up our US citizenship, but we could like be expats there, I would definitely want to employ someone or hire someone to help with that transition, to make sure about all these things and all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, because I think it could be a disaster if you missed something and got there and thought, oh my God,
It's true.
what have I done? So,
and I think that person would be an immigration lawyer
mm-hmm.
to help us get all of the paperwork in place and do everything we need to do if that were the direction that we were going in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's probably how we're gonna go about that eventually. But that's in the future, and we're just researching now. Between now and then, however, we plan on doing some traveling to some of these places that we are identifying
Definitely.
as
Definitely.
candidates for a move. While I'm still working, and once we've gotten the house sold and all of our debts off of us, then we'll be able to afford these trips and going to various places. So I'm really looking forward to actually going and traveling to these different places, even if we don't decide to move. And that's an option too,
and that's
right?
an option
We
too.
talked about that too, right? I mean, once we go and we visit these places, we might say, hey, this is great to visit, but I'm not sure if I want to live here. Right. And we've been to some places like that.
Right. And we also want to make sure that wherever we are, we can take our pups with us, because we love them and we would not leave them here.
Yeah.
And so that was one expense, I think, that the people in Portugal with the apartments, I think their one dog cost them $1,200 to get there.
Yeah.
And so that's not something I would want to do a few times a year, is
No.
getting my animals back and forth. So, if you were going to go and stay for a while, say you got a 90-day visa or 180, you'd want to take your dogs with you, but you do need to figure in the cost of having your animals there with you, and also the stress on them.
Yeah.
So.
And that's why I say I think that our plan is to look at getting a long-term place to stay in somewhere that has a lower cost of living, and then basing our operations out of there, where
Mm-hmm.
we go and stay in that place. And then if we want to travel to other countries,
Mm-hmm.
we can. And that's
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I think was interesting to us about Portugal, because it's in Spain. It's, you know, it's next to Spain, and it's on the coast of Spain, and you can easily get to the rest of Europe
Mm-hmm.
and to the UK
Mm-hmm.
from Portugal.
Mm-hmm.
We liked Bali because it's such a beautiful place, and we've seen so much of, you know, videos of it, that
Mm-hmm.
we'd like to go there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not so sure that it's someplace that we would want to live long term, because we've seen some. It's kind of like,
I think it depends on where
it's
you
almost
are.
an island
Mm-hmm.
kind of feel to it, where you're
Mm-hmm.
kind of, some places, like we saw one villa that a guy was living in, and he actually had an outdoor living space. He had two bedrooms in the villa. One belonged to him and the other to somebody else, and they had a shared outdoor living space with a kitchen that was outdoors. And I'm not sure I want a kitchen outdoors.
Washing machine and everything
Yeah,
was outside.
everything was outside.
So it's very rustic.
Yes, but
Very
the key there is that it's kind of, you know, like the same, pretty much the same temperature year round, because they don't get super hot days or super cold days, so they can afford to have, you know, something outside that they work with.
Yes, right? And no. I understood that there was a rainy season where it rains and it's very humid, muggy, and hot, but it's raining. And then there's the warmer seasons where that's when the tourism is at its peak and the kids are out of school, and the different areas. So you could be outside all the time. They don't have, like we have here, 42 today and 70 in the morning, and so you would need to look at the climates there too.
And I think that's, again, the Portugal. I kind of lean toward Portugal for that reason, because it's not neither too hot or too cold. It's not, if you live on the coast, it's not some place I would want to go swimming, because they say that the water in the ocean is about 70 degrees all the time. Which, if you come from Canada, and my friends in Canada may say, "Oh, that sounds great. We'd love to be in that," right? Because they're coming from, 32 degrees is a regular, or 0
But
Celsius.
Here, where it's 111 in the shade and the ocean's in the 80s or 90s.
Yeah, we don't do 70-degree water.
Do 70.
Yeah, but. Well, I'm glad you could visit with us today, and we're going to be doing this more often. We're going to have, this is the first in a series of videos talking about our life, what we're doing, showing you what we do and how we do it.
The journey to Dean's retirement.
Yes, the journey to Dean's retirement, as well as our journey to being YouTubers, right? Which is, again, I personally think that if you are over 60 and do not have a YouTube channel, you should get one immediately, because it's super easy. We're doing this with our Pixel Pro phone, and it's really easy to do.
And it's fun.
Right? I mean, it's not something that, it's not like work, right? It's something that you do for enjoyment. So
if you woodwork or do crafts or cook or travel or just like to talk, it's great. You can do anything.
So that must be us. That like to talk. Yeah. Okay, gotcha. So we're going to sign off now. Thank you so much for watching, and please subscribe and like and comment, because we'd love to hear your comments.
And come back to see us next time.
Bye.
Bye.